Okay, I'm back. Now it's elastic time. So this is thicker than I normally would like to use. This is 3/8 of an inch, I think, but it's still reasonably comfortable. 1/4 inch is ideal. I also have this, which is really thin, but this you can use to loop through and tie it. That's a different kind of mask that I might make later if I run out of this, because it seems like everybody wants to make masks now, so they're elastic is in short supply. Anyway, I'm going to do about 7.5 inches based on one that I made for Ted. This has just been trial and error. Okay, so I have 2 pieces of elastic, 7.5 inches each. So now here is my right side out mask. So I always top stitch, along the edges of the finished mask, because that's going to help it keep its shape, keep it nice and tidy. So as we're doing the top stitch here, normally this would already be sewed together, but it's not, because I want to put the elastic in there, because that's going to make it a nice flat, because otherwise it gets all bunched up. So you have to make sure, because these are the raw edges, you have to make sure that you fold this in a little bit, kind of consistent with the amount that is sewed together. You want to fold this in, you want to fold this in. So these are both folded. I don't know how well you can see that, like that. So you're going to sew it together like that, but with the elastic in between, like this. So now you're going to have the mask with the elastic going straight back like that, because before it was kind of coming out of the top or whatever, and it was just sort of messy and bulky. And this should be a lot more comfortable to the wearer. So I'm just going to right now top stitch to keep the elastic on, because when I top stitch here, I'm going to put in one of these twisty ties for to mold it over the nose. All right, so just top stitching this part. Okay, pardon the interruption. Anyway, so I folded each of these in like I showed you before, and I sandwiched the elastic in between. Sorry, bad idea to put a pin in my mouth. So I folded those both in, see, like that, and then I sandwiched the elastic in between them. Don't go too close to the edge. Try to make it nice and straight like that. And make sure this doesn't get twisted, so this will lie nice and neat, because it'll be more comfortable around the ear. If it's twisted, it will not be. Okay, so now I'm going to top stitch out. I'm going to top stitch just along the bottom first, because I'm not putting the metal piece in there. So kind of try to roll this between your fingers to get it so it's not all bunched up. And just top stitch it. You need to get, hold on. I'm going to start at the middle because it's getting stuck on the pin. Okay, hang on. So when you get to the elastic, it might hesitate a little because it's pretty thick, obviously. So just go kind of slowly, be patient with your machine. I also have a heavy duty machine that I could use, but I don't think I need to, because I've sewed this elastic on this machine and it's been fine. So you're going to go back and forth a couple of times. And if you leave the needle down, if you have that option on your machine, and then you can turn it without losing your spot, the needle's down, and just go just the width of the elastic, because you want to leave this spot open just a little more, just to get a little more security. Okay. So I sewed there, so it's nice and neat, and it got this elastic in there good. So you see I sewed up and down a few times and then across, just the width of the elastic. So I'm going to do this again, going this way. Hold on, let me trim this. You may find out that if you start to sew with threads hanging down like that, sometimes they'll get caught in here, and it's a pain in the neck. Then you have to stop and pull out the thread and cut it and all that jazz, and it's just a waste of time. So let me sew this part. The last thing I'll do is sew the metal, into the nose piece. Come on. Sometimes convincing this fabric that it wants to be together is not the easiest thing in the world. All right. Just going back and forth over my elastic. A couple of stitches that way. All right, so now we have good strong stitch there. You can really pull that and it'll stay. Trim my threads here, and then I'll show you how we're gonna do the, okay, this should be the last step. Okay, so before I had sewed it, so it's all nice and tight in here. So now I wanna do the same thing here, same thing along here, which is the nose piece, but we also want to put this twisty tie inside of here so that you can mold it to your nose. So I found the easiest thing to do is measure this. I already did, it's 4 inches. So go to the middle seam and mark it with whatever you want. I have chalk, so 2 inches from the middle, roughly. 2 inches from there, hold on. That's not right. I do know how to use a ruler. It didn't look very long. All right, hold on. Whew, 2 inches. That was 1 inch, so let's do that again. Okay, 2 inches. Okay, so I made my little chalk marks here, right? So now I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna feed it into here. This nice little handy pocket we have for when you use a filter. And I'm gonna get it into the nose piece, okay? I'm trying to get it roughly centered. It doesn't have to be perfect. And kind of, as you can see, I'm kind of just working it into the nose piece here, okay? It needs to be right up along the edge, and I think it is. Let me see if it's roughly centered, not quite. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's nose is that big. So, okay. So what I need to do is, I've made this before and I top stitched and the little tie slipped out so it didn't even get caught in there. So I just stuck the pin in, the tie is above it, kind of wedged in there. So I'm gonna do another pin just to kind of keep it in place until I top stitch it, right? So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to start from the middle, work my way to the ends, and remember that now we have to sew this so that it's wedged between the pieces. Hold on, I don't like the way that's placed. Okay. All right. Ow. Sharp pins. Alrighty. So my machine was off because I took an extended break and watched a movie with the kids. Cloverfield, pretty good. All right, I'm going to start sewing now on the nose piece. Hold on, it's kind of all weird. I'm going to try to get it so that it's pretty even, so that I don't have it like rolled forward. Like this is actually rolled forward. I don't like it. Sorry, I know this is long. Do that again. Again, I'm just kind of pinning in front of where the thing is, the little twisty tie, so it'll stay there while I sew. Okay, I think that's good. All right, so now we have a lot of stuff in there, so it might be a little challenging. I'm going to take the pin out to sew, but as long as you can kind of make sure as you're sewing that the twisty tie is in place, then you're in good shape. I can still feel it. So my top stitch is actually going to be a stitch to keep it in place. And then I don't know if you can see, but as I was top stitching along here, I then took a turn and went up towards the very top, because that's going to go across the end of the twisty tie and keep it in place. Okay, I'll show you the results in a minute. Now I'm going to go toward the elastic, which is again gotten a little weird. But you want to have it as straight as possible with those two edges folded. And this is going to make it fairly comfortable to wear, I hope. Again, I'm kind of making this up as I go along. This is kind of a mashup of two or three different patterns and techniques I found online. And I just kept tinkering with it until I found a method that worked, that I liked. We'll see how that came out. Let's see how this side is. So far so good. You can see, I mean, it doesn't have to be pretty, it doesn't matter. I started sewing here, I went down and the twisty tie is in there, and then I diverted up this way across the little twisty tie. It shouldn't hurt your needle, and that's gonna hold it in place. Now I'm gonna do the same thing that way, but I need to make sure, let me trim this, hold on. The twisty tie is still in place on that side too. Hold on, ouch. Pins are sharp, don't forget. Ow. Oh my God. I do that all day, every day. Stick myself with pins. All right. Okay. I guess I'll start here with the end with the elastic and work toward the middle. Almost done. This is the last step, actually, I think. Unless I'm forgetting something. All right. Ooh. You don't want it to sound like that. Shit. Sorry, excuse me. That was interesting. Huh. Well, like I said, sometimes the machine doesn't like the elastic, so we're not going to start on the end with the elastic. We'll start at the middle again. Hey boy. Alright, I don't need that pin anymore. So now I'm going to start going down the other side, make sure my twisty tie is still in there. It is. Take the pin out, and I'm going to kind of feel for the edge of the twisty tie, and then I'm going to sew across it before I get to the very end of it, toward the top of the very top of the mask to make sure that it'll stay in place, right? Okay. And to anyone who's like an accomplished sewer watching this, I realize my technique may not be the best and this may be kind of sloppy, but the point here is not really to make it pretty, but to make it functional. This is as good as it's going to get. Almost done. Okay. Just trim all my pieces of thread here. You'll note that I'm always, whenever I find a thread that's the beginning or the end, I grab both pieces and pull because it kind of helps them form a knot. And then just those little pieces that are hanging around, just trim them off so they don't get in your way. They can be annoying. But I think we are more or less done here. Yeah. All right, so here's your mask, right? Hopefully the right size, elastic, elastic.